Happy Thursday. What a week. Roaring Kitty is back. I'm curious how everybody's week has gone. I've heard about some people's week because they have tweeted about it. So curious how everybody's doing. My name is Kim Ann Curtin, the Wall Street Coach. I host these almost weekly, closer to twice a month, on Thursdays in the neighborhood of 7:30, 8:30. Tonight's 8:30 because it was just a full day. And part of that reason is because of the acceleration course that I'm in the midst of. We have a couple of weeks left. This is live coaching for those of you who haven't been here before. What that means is that you put, your question or challenge in the chat box, and then I will speak to it. Also, let me first, right out of the gate, thank our sponsor, Centerpoint. Centerpoint is a brokerage firm that the level of customer service they give guys is through the roof. And I am a huge advocate of them for a lot of reasons, but especially because of that level of customer care. It's just like truly VIP service. You're going to feel like a VIP if you work with them. So I want to share with you guys the special link that I have for them, which includes very generously a 2-month of no fees. So, okay, I just pulled that out here. Hi, Cynthia. I'm so glad you're here. All right, so here is the Centerpoint link, and very excited to announce also that I'm going to have the CEO of Centerpoint, Matt Marino, on my podcast in the next couple of weeks. So I'd love for you guys to think about, do you have questions that you want me to ask Matt? I think there are a lot of traders out there who see brokers as a dime a dozen. I believe that what Centerpoint offers definitely takes them out of that description. And I think that there are questions that a lot of traders probably have for brokers that they don't get to ask or wish they could have asked. So if anybody has those questions, lay them on me today, or one of these days. You can always DM me on X. And then, of course, I'm going to put them forward to Matt when he does the interview with me. So we're probably going to do an X space. We'll probably do 30 minutes of a podcast video interview, which is kind of the format I prefer, and then take us over to an X space. So hopefully you guys will come to that X space and ask your own questions to him, because that's the best way, right? I think that's what I really appreciate about X the most, is its ability to really bring people that we normally wouldn't be able to have access to in front of us and to talk to them and ask them questions. So anyway, yeah. All right. So Tina, I see that your message is there. So funny. There's like this little glitchy thing sometimes on this channel that sometimes doesn't refresh the questions. And I can see that you wrote something, Tina, but I just can't see what it is. So let me just see if I can open it. See, now I just hit it. I don't know what that is. I'm just going to reopen it, the chat. Maybe that works. I don't know. It could just be a glitch. But Tina, I'm glad you're here, but I can't see what you wrote. So perhaps as more chats come in, I'll be able to see it, because right now it seems to be a little stuck there, but that's okay. No big deal. Can't post messages to some channels. Okay, good afternoon, Tina. Now I can see your message. I think there was a message there for me, but I had to get rid of. So long story short, these are live coaching for me to actually, try to address anything you guys are challenged with, you put it in the chat. I speak on it. This is, I stream it on a lot of channels because, a lot of people kind of favor one over the other. And, why do I do this? I do this, guys, because, it's a big investment to work with me, to work with a coach, to do this kind of self-reflection about your trading. So this is my way of trying to, be a contribution to a community of people who are giving it their all. You guys work really hard. I know that. I know how hard it is to succeed in this industry specifically. And I love what I do. So this is, kind of the spirit of how I even got started, right? I got started because I coached outside the stock exchange in 2000 and was it 2008? So far back I can't remember. And this is during the 08 crisis. It was before the 08 crisis. So formally, kind of the first day I sat down, it was October 7th of 2008, October 6th, 2000, or October 7th. Can't remember. I have to look. But because of that, I got named by a reporter, the Wall Street Coach. And I was like, that is a good name. So that was a long time ago, but that's how this whole thing got started. And before that, I was coaching. I was already coached for a year and a half. And before that, I was in finance for 10 years. Had worked at one of the largest hedge funds in the world. And it was when I was there that I hired my first executive coach. I was so blown away. It was so life-changing for me that I became, completely enamored with this work and actually went to the school and the curriculum and the training that the coach I had hired had gone through, which is this CTI, the Coaches Training Institute. And just for context, that is an ICF certified school. So it's probably good for me to just speak to that. What is the ICF? The ICF is the International Coaching Federation. It's a global body that gives, credentials, appropriate curriculums they feel have been vetted. And I think that's important, guys. Hi, Kurt. Okay, double check to make sure you have your good mic connected. Kurt, I love you so much. And I did. But I'm thinking something must be wrong if you're weighing in. It says audio output, sure, MV7. So if that is not seeming like it's working, audio input, maybe it's audio. I don't know, Kurt, is it audio? Maybe it's audio input. Okay, that's what I'm thinking. And then Mac Brew, I guess, does matter because no, I'm not going to hear any sound. Maybe I hit the wrong one. Audio input. Okay, now I see you because I was too busy in there. I'm just double checking myself. Hold on. Audio input. Okay, I screwed it up. God bless you, Kurt. You're the man. You're so good. You're so good. What can I say? Kurt, everybody, say hello to Kurt. This is my tech genius here who, helps me with my completely non-tech savvy ways. So thank you so much, Kurt. I really appreciate that. Kurt has taught me that sound really makes a big difference in these things, in all the things we do. And Kurt has me ordering a very expensive microphone for all those shorts I do. So yeah, Kurt's helped me spend my money, but it's a great mic. It's, of course, because I'm here in Hawaii, guys, it takes freaking 6 weeks to get something that on the mainland would take probably 24 hours, but it's coming. So, but this mic is really good. This is a Shure mic, and I have this thanks to Kurt. So anyway, thanks, Kurt, for coming up. So the ICF, International Coach Federation. And the reason I just want to speak to that, because on occasion people, they have a valid question with asking who is a coach? What is a coach credentials? Like, where does that come from? And look, I think this is very important to just speak to for a minute, guys. And this is just in general. And it is also applicable to your trading and the teachers, right? And the different gurus you listen to. I want you guys to really be present that it's okay. Doesn't it sound better to you? Of course, of course. The mic does matter, right? And also the people listening. Like, life is hard enough where you don't have to be struggling to listen to this kind of a conversation, right? And it's going to be up. And apparently, all these lives that I've been doing, I haven't connected the mic. And here I am today, spending a lot of time before I came on to get the mic set up, and I pressed the wrong button. So anyway, it does make a difference. And I'm glad that it's working. So here's the thing. The ICF is a governing body that kind of gives accreditation to the schools that are legit, so to speak. But I really want to say something about that. So yes, I'm ICF certified. I have a CPCC, right? Which means Certified Professional Coactive Coach, right? It's the kinds of coaching I practice. But in 18 years, guys, of being a coach, I can count on one hand, and maybe actually 2 or 3 fingers, how many people have asked me if I am certified. So people work with the people they feel connected to. And that is just how we're built as humans. But it's always wise, of course, to do your due diligence. I did speak to a young trader recently who is working with a particular person, not somebody I was familiar with, but what I heard worried me that this, teacher that he has may not be how he presents himself to be. And this young person might like him, might resonate with him. The guy could be legit. I have no idea. But I don't know that enough vetting, so to speak, was done. And so I want you guys to think about that with regards to any of the rooms you're in, any of the people you're listening to, especially when it comes to X. A lot of traders sometimes will be reading, tweets and feeling despair because they're not at that same level. And they don't even know, these are the people that don't have the verified accounts, the verified trades, right? There's a lot out there that say, only tell you about their wins, don't tell you about their losses, right? Many don't do that, but I just want you to be discriminatory in who you're listening to. And because human beings have this tendency to kind of go with the people that we just like, you want to be sure that you have done your own due diligence just so that you don't pay a price later. And all I said to this young man was to, get some evidence, some credentials, some clarity about the man's, experience. And, I was confused because, the teaching that was happening for this young man wasn't really costing what a person at the level he had proposed himself to be would do. Like, I don't know any trader who's had a great deal of success. Yes, there are some who are going to give back similar to this kind of way. And that's fabulous. That's different. But those are always traders usually who have a track record, right? But there are those out there. So just be careful. That's the short and skinny on that. Okay. So back to the coaching. I just want to speak to that because I want you guys to have some context. I don't talk about that often because I'm too busy talking about the topics that I hope will serve you. But I think it is important. And I guess, look, I would love for everybody here to one day when they feel they're ready for coaching, come to me and my firm. And If that isn't available to you, or you don't feel that resonance, then please be sure to pick a coach that you do resonate with, right? Yes, I would say check their credentials. Yes, I would advocate you find a coach, that you feel is legit. And you have to resonate with their style. Like, look, I'm not going to be everybody's cup of tea, guys. I'm just not. Like, I have a certain way about me. I have a certain style. It's not for everybody. That's okay. But I want you to just take care of you and make sure that whomever you're learning from around how to trade, whoever you're learning from to manage your emotions, whoever you're learning from and or hoping to emulate, be sure that these people kind of have those same values as yours, and or is kind of the things. There's a great story from Josh Brown, downtown Josh Brown. I don't know if he still calls himself that, but Josh Brown, he's one of the 50 in my book, Transforming Wall Street. His book is called The Reformed Broker. Such a good book, guys. Such a good book. And he talks about how when he was young, 18, 19, his dad introduced him to a brokerage. These were brokers that were basically trying to sell, scam stocks, kind of like what we saw in the beginning of The Wolf of Wall Street, right? But Josh said, his dad saw this guy driving the fancy car, had the big house, had the watch, So his dad presumed that man was successful. So he thought by introducing his son to this successful guy, his son would be able to follow in the successful man's footsteps. But what Josh speaks to in my interview with him is that his dad was incorrect. This man was a scammer. Like, he was, addicted to drugs, had a little habit for the ladies that, get charged by the hour. Like, his whole lifestyle underneath the facade. He said, if my dad knew who he had introduced me to, like, he'd have been horrified. But that is what can happen sometimes. We can become seduced by the image, and we can have that happen in relationships, in work situations, with friends, with family. It can happen anywhere. So just always do your vetting. This is one of the things actually Robert Greene talks about in the 48 Laws of Power, and why it's such a good book. And, I know a few people, who are kind of spiritual, who are good people, and they're like, oh, I don't want to read that book because, it teaches you how to manipulate. But if you listen to Robert Greene, when he talks about it, he talks about the fact that he said he feels the book is to prepare people that are good, that are decent, how to be and navigate those sharks. He's like, it's not to teach you how to be a shark. The sharks already know how to be sharks. The people that are the victims of those sharks, we all need to know how to navigate them, what to look for, what to ask. And that's why that book is so powerful. And he says, me included, Robert Greene is self-identifying as not being a shark, but he began to realize, I have to build myself up. I have to know the truth of how some people operate. Not that he even is saying everybody's like that. He's not. But he's saying you're going to bump into them, be it in work, in life, in families or extended families, in new friends. And you have to be prepared. You have to understand that not everybody may be coming from a place of looking out for your best interest. And it's important to be prepared for that so you can navigate it as successfully as possible, especially when it comes to business, especially when it comes to trading. All right, so went off on a tangent there, didn't I? So again, friendly reminder, please put, any question you have in the chat box. And I'm glad you think that's solid advice, Tina. I'm very glad to hear that. So I do have a couple of things to talk about today, which is kind of the standard protocol, kind of come in, do a little intro, then I'm going to basically, talk about a lesson or something that kind of, I think is important for you all to look for in general in your life, but also for those that are traders in your trading. And you guys, those who are regulars here, have heard me say before, often this concept of how you do one thing is how you do everything. Now, that's a blanket statement. Do I agree with that 100% of the time? Of course not. But it's a sort of like, on average, that's kind of true, right? If you're a person who really hates to lose in your trading, hates to face a loss, hates to cut, a loss when it's obvious because you're just so stubborn about it, it's not a big stretch to presume you don't like losing in life either. You don't like losing at, I don't know, traffic jams or a board game or, tennis, for God's sakes, right? So think about that. Think about how and where you show up in other places in your life. And then imagine that likely is coming over to your trading, because that alone can save you so much time. If there are specific things in your day-to-day life, in your personal life, you've got to realize that it's very unlikely that isn't coming with you over to your trading. How can it not, right? The lens that we look through is always going to affect whatever we see. So that means if you are looking out of eyes, I'll give you an example. I saw a friend earlier today, and you guys know I live in Hawaii, right? I'm from Brooklyn, New York. I moved here almost 10 years ago. And one of the things Hawaii is known for is having a blue zone. A blue zone indicates longevity, indicates healthy living, people living above average. I can't tell you how my relationship to aging has completely changed on this island, because I have paddled. You guys know I do outrigger paddling with 60, 70, 80, 90-year-olds, guys. 90-year-olds. And some of those 90-year-olds can whoop my butt out on that ocean because they are in such good shape. Why am I telling you this? I see this older gal earlier today. How are you? I say, downstairs, right? We have a coffee shop. My office is right upstairs of it. So it's like a little bit of like a mini version of Grand Central Station. This is the real Grand Central Station that I got hanging up here on my wall. But this is kind of like a little small town to the Grand Central Station. How are you? I asked her. This is what she answered. Oh, Kim, I am 82. Now, because my coaching hat is always on, I was like, what does that mean? She's like, I'm 82. And I was like, so? I was like, I have two close friends here who are 92. I was like, so you got at least 10 more years to go. And she just kind of like went back like, huh. So right now, right before this conversation, her lens is, let's presume we know what it is. I'm old, right? I'm 82. So when you think of yourself a certain way, guys, it's going to be the lens, the glasses you look out at the world out, right? I put these on. These are actually blue light glasses, believe it or not. That is now going to protect my eyes, right? Or my phone, if I'm lucky and if they're real and they're good. But it's going to affect everything I see, right? You can't just see one thing and not see everything. So the heart of that. So when I said that to her, and she knew these two people I was talking about, and she was like, God, like they're both my hero. I was like, they're both, paddling and doing all this physical activity. Like that mindset is going to influence how she feels, what she perhaps sees herself capable of every day. And yet, those other two 92-year-olds, they don't see themselves as their age at all. And I'll tell you, they don't act it. They don't walk like that's their age. It's an attitude. Now, I'm sure for most of you guys, you're like horrified at the idea of 82, never mind 92. But I'm telling you, that is just a story. So be careful. That is today's lesson. Be careful of the stories you're telling yourself. What does that mean? I'm 82. Whatever your age is, well, I am 25. I am 36. I am 49. Like, whatever the number is, guys, you have a story attached to it. Here's one that I hear often for people who are older. Like, oh, I'm this age and I'm not as far as I should be. Like, according to who? Like you, and probably more likely an inner gremlin who has a particular checklist that it thinks you should have checked by now. So all this to say, really look at these perspectives, stories, lenses that you look out on the world with. What I do know about those two 92-year-olds is they are kind of in surprise mentality over the fact of their ages. They don't see themselves as their age. They feel as if somehow the number must be wrong because they feel so much more younger than that. And that, I have no doubt, informs the way they get out of bed every day, the way they approach things. So if you guys are willing to share, I would love to hear what might be a story that you guys have about your trading. I posted something thanks to Benito of True Trader. He had tagged me in a tweet showing Theo Vaughn being coached by Anthony Robbins. And Theo is saying how hard it is for him to receive compliments, how hard it is for him to be proud of himself. And Anthony starts to coach him. And in the middle of this, Theo repeats more than a couple of times, I can never feel proud of myself. And at one point, Anthony stops him and he's like, stop saying that, because the more you say that, you keep pressing down on that belief system. And then Robbins gives us a doozy. He's like, there's a famous saying that says, if you tell a lie long enough, often enough, repeatedly enough, people will believe it as true. And then he tells us who said that. Adolf Hitler. That statement, guys, is the statement to realize that is how Hitler was able to do what he was able to do, because he repeated a lie over and over and over again. So I want you all to consider, what lie are you repeating to yourself about your trading? And part of me almost wants to reword that, because I don't know that people always can see the lie that they're telling themselves, because they have so been convinced by their inner critic that they think it is the truth, whatever the story is. And that is a big part of how and why change doesn't happen, because often we are blind to our own stories. We have so believed what are lies about our limitations, about what we're capable of, about what we can endure, that we can't even see that there is an us and then a story we have about us. So part of the reason I hesitate to call these stories lies is because you might be like, oh, I don't lie to myself. But if you say to yourself, well, I'm this age, as if that means something, that is potentially a lie. So ultimately, what I want you guys to look for is, what are the stories you have, right? This often helps us get to the bottom of it. Don't look for the lies, look for the stories. What are the things you always say to people? Eric, where focus goes, energy goes. If stories believe, you don't change because you don't think it needs to. That's it, Eric. That's it. Absolutely. Having a sip of my weekly Diet Coke. You guys, I'm always having a Diet Coke with you guys, just have a little bit of caffeine. So see if you can put down on the dining room table, that metaphoric dining room table, all the stories you have about yourself. Oh, I always this. Oh, I always that. Oh, I've always done that. Oh, that's just who I am. All of those things, get it down on paper. Cynthia says, I'm recently feeling that I am turning a corner for the better with my trading. However, I'm having a little difficulty letting go of the old me and adopting this new quote unquote successful person. So, Cynthia, here's a couple of questions for you. First of all, congrats, because that's huge that you can see yourself turning a corner. And Cynthia, you've been in this chat room long enough for me to know that you don't give yourself a lot of credit sometimes. So I'm very proud of you for doing this. And if you're saying I am turning a corner, then by God, you probably are, because sometimes I think you probably do better than you think you do, and you don't acknowledge that. So here's a question for you, Cynthia. Do you have, I don't know what the answer to this is. I'm just putting it forward. Do you have any stories about successful people? Whatever that means to you, right? Success could mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So that's what I want you to think about, Cynthia. What are the stories you have about successful people? Or a couple of ways you can phrase this to yourself: rich people, or what's the word I want to say? Smart people, or confident people, right? Those are just a couple of kind of descriptors that you want to look at, because if there are stories attached to any of those that are potentially negative, then it would make sense to not want to be one of those people, if you get my drift. In that T. Harv Eker book that I put together, I'm looking for this here. It's called Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. And that is, it's T. Harv Eker. It's a book about Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. I think it's called Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. I think that's the title, guys. It's just mixing it up with another title in my head. But here's what I want to speak to. In that book, I just have my notes here, and I want to grab them out because he has these great catchphrases. And that's what I want you guys to think about right now. Shoot, I thought I had that. Yeah, here it's okay. These are catchphrases. Okay, to me, it always felt that successful people were out of reach. Great, Cynthia. Well done. Okay, so anything else about successful people, right? That it's out of reach. Just if you're willing, Cynthia, It's up to you. But I would say just keep typing. Like, what else? What else do successful people have? I have that book. I've not read it in a while. It's okay. You'll maybe revisit it. But keep going, Cynthia. What else do successful people have, right? Right now, there's a story that is out of reach, right? What other stories that come with it? You want to take a look at this because, and this is something too, I think I've talked to you guys about Olivia Mellon's book, right? She's the one who wrote Money Harmony. And she's the one who has that assessment that I've advocated you guys take. You know, it's not the most dense, fancy assessment, but it allows you to just quickly get a sense of your relationship to money. So does Jared Dillion's book. His book's called No Worries. I think you guys know I had him on my podcast a while back. He talks about too, he calls everybody, there's two kinds of people, right? He cuts down to very, black and white. Confidence. Yep. Good job, Cynthia. Good job. So keep doing this work. You can do it here or for yourself, but there are probably some qualities that you will keep mining about what successful people, like what they look like, how they act, how they feel, what they think, how they treat other people, especially people that aren't quote unquote successful or aren't confident. Like right now, I suspect there are a collection of thoughts, beliefs, stories you have about successful people that possibly is keeping you from allowing yourself to imagine you that way. And that's ultimately an inside story you have, right? We think, oh, it's that person, and the way they show up. To me, they always seemed organized, which I felt that my life lacked growing up. I hear you, Cynthia, and I just want to tell you that I have worked with for a lot of successful people. And I can tell you, sister, many of them are not organized. Some are, but some aren't. So these are all the stories that you potentially are currently measuring yourself up against. Well, I'm not organized, so I guess I'll never be successful. I'm not confident, so I guess I'll never be successful, right? This is how these invisible beliefs really get to take root in us. And then we start to see ourselves a certain way, right? If those two 92-year-olds that I spoke to woke up tomorrow and were 82, they'd be like, hell yeah, let's go, right? Because for them, they would be thrilled to be 82. It's context, right? Always context. And that's what I really want you guys to see. If you guys keep telling yourself stories about yourself, stories about your trading, stories about who you fundamentally are, you will keep living that story. The key is to start to consider that all these stories may or may not be the truth, be your truth, be the story you want to live anymore. And that is part of it, Cynthia, right? Is the concept of if successful people potentially are undisciplined, are potentially unorganized, if you can meet a successful person who isn't that confident, well, then you have to revise your whole perspective on what successful people bring to the table. And that potentially opens up room for you to get to be there. Maybe I'm not going to even get into whether or not that's true, that you're confident or not, organized or not, disciplined or not. But let's just say you aren't on any of these. But if you start to meet a bunch of successful people that maybe weren't that disciplined, maybe weren't that confident, and they still were successful, that would make you think, maybe I can be this too, because I'm not these things and they exist. So maybe I can exist too. Do you see what I'm saying? This is kind of an extreme, but it's just the idea of it. If we see limits, if we see or we tell ourselves that there's some kind of ceiling above us, there will be. If we tell ourselves that we can accomplish what we want for ourselves, we move ourselves much more into alignment to getting there. I'm not talking about having unrealistic or, ridiculous goals that are completely insane. And yet, let's take a look at how many people have accomplished insane things, right? Because they believed in it and they didn't see limitation. So there's a balance, there's a razor's edge, right? But you want to start to ask yourself, am I putting limits on myself through those stories that I tell myself? And is it possible that those stories are holding me back in one way or another? And that's ultimately all I want you guys to look at. First, I want you to get clear on what the stories are. Second, I want you to start to write down the catchphrases you always say about yourself. When you start to do that, you have to face, I wonder when that story came about. I wonder when I started to believe that particular perspective, that particular story. So Cynthia shared with us, I'd love everybody here, share with me one of your beliefs. Like, I'm introverted, Kim, or, I can never handle, traffic, like I want you guys to say, like these are simple beliefs, right? Oh, I would never go into a party if I didn't know anybody. Like these are so simple. What could be the ones for your trading? Like, oh, I never cut a loss quick enough, right? All of the sayings that you constantly hear yourself repeating, that you tell your friends, that you put in the Discord room, put a couple of them here, guys, and take them out of the dark and walk around them as if they are a piece of sculpture. And ask yourself, when did these become embedded in me? When did they become such a part of me that I didn't even question them anymore? That is when you start to become not just a person who is self-aware and more thoughtful and kind of conscious about how you operate, but you also will become a sort of observer of yourself. And that's really powerful, because when you are an observer of yourself, you're going to be coming from a place of neutrality. And neutrality is a place where growth can happen. If you want change for yourself, if you want to change or grow in any way, first you're going to have to be able to take a look at the things that you feel are costing you without judgment. Because if you judge the places that you are not operating at the level you're capable of, your ability to level up is going to be secured much quicker if you aren't in a contraction, right? There's two states, guys, for all of us at every day, every moment. Either we're in a contraction, right? A tightness. Everything is tight. Our thinking is tight, narrow. Our body physically is tight. Maybe our arms go across our chest. There is this incredible sense of shrinking when we step into resistance, when we start to feel attacked inside of ourselves with our self-judgments or from outside, right? So think of that as a contraction, right? Either you're in a contraction or you're in a state of expansion at all times. Which one of those states, guys, just think about it. Which one of those states do you think is more potential for you to transform, for you to grow, for you to blossom? Sure as heck ain't the contract state. Sure as heck ain't the place where everything is super tight. That's a place where very little growth happens because there's so much stuckness in that spot. And that is ultimately the first step at changing anything, is noticing, oh, look, I have a bunch of resistance. Oh, look, I have a whole bunch of tightness inside of my heart, inside of my body, inside of my mind. So start to look for the places where there is a big contraction and there's big resistance, because it's an indicator that you are trying to protect yourself. And protecting yourself, especially if you were not treated well when you were a kid, is an understandable reaction. This is why I'm always advocating neutrality, because until you can get to that place of neutrality regarding yourself, if you're in total judgment about how you show up, it's going to be really hard for you to change, because as long as you're in judgment about yourself, you're going to be in a contraction. And that is not where change happens. You know, there's a lot of different teachers out there who talk about, you just got to grind it out and you got to just, push through and blah, blah, blah. Like, I get what they're saying. I understand that there is time and a place perhaps for that, but I don't believe it is a long-term solution, because until we are with that contraction, until we're with whatever that resistance is being created by, I don't know that we fully get it's. To me, it's like, dandelions on a grassy lawn. You can pull all the dandelions out of the ground, but they're going to come back up. To me, the grinding out is kind of like that. I want to find out what's going on under the surface that keeps causing these dandelions to grow. I always want to go for the root. Like, you can go for the superficial, but like, I don't know. And maybe that's me. Maybe I'm a glutton for punishment, but I'm just like, no. If I am seeing a limiting belief for myself, if I have costs in how I show up for myself or with other people, I want to get to the root of that. I don't want to do some superficial surface kind of bullshit. I want to get to the heart of the matter and deal with that, deal with where that's coming from. Because I know if that gets healed, if that gets addressed, if that I can meet myself with compassion for that part of myself, then the upside is unlimited. Unlimited. All right. Eric says, razor's edge made me think of Occam's razor. Just a bit of word association. That's good, Eric. I like it. Grinds when you don't mind, but have the will to chill and just observe. And look, guys, my advocacy of observing doesn't mean that I am not an advocate of action, but I do feel action in this current culture sort of take center stage, and being sort of is like the ugly stepsister. Action is necessary. we do have to take action even when we don't feel it. That I will agree with. But I always say, if you're having a lot of resistance to that action, yes, you might have to take action first and have those feelings catch up. But you can also simultaneously get curious about what the resistance might be about. Cynthia, if it's okay with you, I'm just going to kind of go back to what you said, right? That there are some thoughts, opinions, beliefs, stories about quote unquote successful people. So, if we just, let's say, I said to Cynthia, oh, just grind it out, like, she may never get to the bottom of what's really informing her ability to level up, right? Because that sense of discomfort might be invisible to her. And at being somebody that, she thinks she's not going to ever be. That's why it's so important to kind of lift the hood of our vehicle and take a look at the way we're wired. Because if we understand how we're wired, sometimes, guys, you'd be amazed how that alone, the paradigm shift of that alone can change everything. I can certainly speak for myself because that is what happened to me when I went through the landmark form. And I'm going to just, give a shout out to that. It is you're going to get such a bang for your buck. Maybe it's $700, maybe $800. It's in most major cities. It's a global organization called Landmark Education. You're going to Google it. Some people are going to bitch and say it's a cult. It's not a cult, but I think it triggers a lot of people because it forces you to be with aspects of yourself that, are not so fun to see, to be quite honest. And as I'm speaking about this paradigm shift, that weekend, it was 3.5 days. My friend Todd, shout out to you, Todd, told me quite bluntly that I need to do that course. And I was offended. This was 20 years ago. And I was defensive. And he asked me to promise him that I would not get off the ride until it ended. And I made that promise to him. The teaching, the lesson that ultimately landed for me took, it's Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday, and Sunday night. In the beginning, they told us there are early poppers in this course and late poppers. I was a late popper. I was the last piece of kernel of popcorn in the microwave that popped. I was so committed to my story being right that I spent those first almost 3 days, right? 2.5 days, absolutely ruining the day that I gave Todd my word that I would stay till the end. I was angry. I was mad at him. I felt I had been hoodwinked. I was pissed off at the guy that led the weekend. I was like, this is bullshit. I was furious. And 1:00 in the morning, Sunday night, it landed. I got it. I was like, oh my God. The paradigm shift landed like a ton of bricks on me. Everything changed, guys. Everything. I would not be where I am today in 1,000 different ways if that perspective shift didn't happen. Was there actions that I took that were different afterwards? Yes. But more important than the action was the story changed. My story changed. My story of being a victim. I saw myself as a victim, guys. I saw myself as a person who had things done to me, and it so limited me. And what I learned in that course was a choice to take 100% responsibility for myself and how I move forward. And everything looked different, as if, my glasses suddenly allowed me to see perfectly. The glasses they put on me. It was the most paradigm shifting experience. I've had a couple. I'm very fortunate and lucky that I have. There's a couple others I'll talk about another time, but that was a big one that started a lot of my journey. And that weekend, and what happened for me there inspired me to hire my coach. And that coaching experience was so profound. Shout out to you, Kate, that I knew I was going to need to be a coach. I knew I was here to be a coach. I knew that was the bliss I was looking for, that Joe Campbell talks about, follow your bliss. And I was looking for that bliss for, good 20 years, because I had seen Joe Campbell when I was like 18, 19 years old. And so I was always on the search, what the hell's my bliss? And when I found coaching, but I wouldn't have found coaching if it wasn't for that course, if it wasn't for that paradigm shift. So all this to say, go look within, find the limiting, or just the stories you tell yourself. You may not even know they're limiting yet. You may not even know they're lies. Just look for the stories you tell yourself. There could be some ones that are positive. There could be some that make you feel good. Let's just see them all, and that's fine. I hope there are, and you can certainly hold on to those, but I just want you to start to pay attention to all the things you always say about yourself, so that you can do a really good due diligence on where and what those are, and to consider, what if they are just stories, and what if they maybe aren't necessarily the truth. All right. So I'll stop talking for a minute. Tell me if you guys have any other questions, anything else you want coaching on. Just put it in the chat box. Any questions, any thoughts, any input? Again, I'm going to do a shout out to our sponsor, Centerpoint, and I'll put that link in the box. What else did I want to speak to? Oh, I said this already, that we're going to have Matt Marino, the CEO of Centerpoint, come on our podcast. I think it's 22nd. I have to double check the dates. This is a special link for our listeners, for the Wall Street Coach, to Centerpoint to get a discounted 2 months of no fees. So check that link out. And I just hope that you guys, at the end of the day, will take with you kind of the homework of self-reflection, the homework of what are my stories about how I trade, about even the kinds of trader you see yourself as. All of that just starts to open your eyes so that you can get yourself as close to possible to a place of this neutrality, because that neutrality is spacious and filled with possibility. And there's a great Rumi quote that says, beyond ideas of right and wrong, there's a field. I'll meet you there. What is that about? That means we have a tendency to be always stepping into polarity, right? Good, bad, right, wrong, red, blue, right? But there is this whole field of gray that very few of us are willing to step into. Look, it's really great to be certain. Feels good, doesn't it? A little bit of self-righteousness to the things we know we know. Now, this I know. You hear people do this on Twitter. this is this and this. Really? No, it's this way. This. Like, think about how often you ever hear anybody say, I never thought of it that way. Or, I don't know. Like, how often do people just say nothing? They just don't. Everybody has an opinion. Everybody has a perspective. What happens if you let yourself step into a different perspective? Most of us have all the social media constantly putting in front of us what they know we like to see, right? So we don't see other people's perspectives or points of view that are outside the echo chamber of what we like to say. I purposely try to follow people and listen to people that I don't agree with to understand that perspective. And this is something too that I say to a lot of traders often. When you're taking a trade and you are so sure it is the right move, consider that there is a trader on the other side of your trade that is absolutely convinced they have the right move, right? That hopefully opens your mind up a little bit. We all want to see what we're seeing. We want to believe that we're seeing reality, but we aren't always. So when you start to think, I wonder how that trader is looking at this. If they're ready to take that off my hands, they must believe something very different than I do. What is that? If you can't name it, if you can't identify it, you got to ask yourself, is it possible you're missing something they see? That is a willingness to step into multiple perspectives at the same time. Yes, you will have to land on a way to go. And if anything, you will become more confident in your perspective if you have stepped into the shoes of the other trader. Imagined looking at it from that trader's perspective. This is just a good practice for life. Whatever political party you identify with, don't just listen to the, sound bites of a person you don't agree with. Like, listen to them with curiosity, without judgment. I get there can be some perspectives that are, very hard to take, but even those, remember in debate class, I don't know how much younger everybody is here, but gosh, like in debate class in high school, we had to debate both sides of a position. We had to see both sides, where they both had points. What was that perspective like? That was like one of the best things that they ever did for us, because it helped us see, there can be good points on two different sides of an issue. The more open-minded we are, also, the less likely we're going to be to demonize one another, which is very easy to do now. There are people out there who find out a person had a vaccine or didn't have a vaccine, and they make all these judgments about them with no other data. They put that person now in this file and this box and this blah, blah, blah. And for this person, they put this. What if none of that is accurate, right? This is how we're operating now, unfortunately. Don't be that person, guys, because it closes up and limits what is an entire field of possibility. And I'm going to give a shout out to another book that I love, which is called The Art of Possibility. This is by Ben and Rosamund Zander. The Art of Possibility, if you want to expand your ability to step into that field that Rumi talks about, read that book. It's a fun book. It's an easy book. It's a light book. It's a quick book. It's well written. It's small little potato chip sized chapters. And it's sort of like the book version of what happens in Landmark. Of course, Landmark's going to be much more impactful because you're going to be engaged in it. But if you're not getting to Landmark right away, go read that book because it's very helpful at being able to see how limiting most of us are all the time. And like, guys, I include myself in this. I am always striving to keep an eye out because I have done so much work around my gremlin. I am more likely than not able to see myself without the judgment. Like, oh, look at that. Instead of going, what a jerk. I can't believe I think that. Now I'm like, wow, I'm really attached to that perspective. I wonder what that's about. Or how fascinating. That came with 20 years of practice, if not more, because I told you I've done, did started therapy when I was 10 years old, for God's sake. So I now can sort of look at myself, look at the mistakes I make, look at the places where I still am so human and such a fuck up without as much judgment as I used to. And that facilitates me being able to get curious about it and get to the root much quicker because I'm not in a whole bunch of judgment about it. I'm not saying I never self-judge myself, but it happens so much less frequently now because I've realized like that's going to slow me down. That self-judgment isn't going to get me where I want to go. I would rather be able to look at the things that I see about myself that, are keeping me from what I desire. And I want to just like, oh, okay, digest it, understand it, heal it, move on. So that's how I want to roll. So I learned that to do that, I have to lower the volume on my own self-judgment. And that can open up your willingness to see stuff about yourself much quicker. All right, Cynthia, I'm sorry I missed this before. Glad you felt it was great advice tonight. I've been writing nonstop about the stories. Good job, you, Cynthia. That takes so much courage right there, sister. Just writing the stories down. And here's the thing, Cynthia. Even if you notice these stories, right? Even if you notice the judgments that you're, getting present to now, don't judge the judgment. Do you get that, Cynthia? Like, oh my God, I'm so judgment filled. Oh my God, I have all these stories. Can you look at that and not judge it, not make yourself wrong, but say, how fascinating. Look at all the stories I have. Do you hear the playfulness in that? Do you hear like how that isn't getting just too serious? I gotta fix all these. I gotta make change. No. Like, and that's why you guys, I think you guys have heard me, and I've been saying this a lot lately, especially even to clients and to myself, is listening to the words to the 38 Special song, Hold On Loosely. I keep sending that to clients because everybody is just like, I gotta make this. Like, how much change happened? And we're like, I got this, I have to that, and look at these stories. And I'm like, no. Hold it loosely, guys. Don't let go, but hold it loosely, right? And that's following rule number 6. And that came up today too with someone I was working with. Like, what is rule number 6? I'm sure I've told you guys that before. If you don't know, go look it up because it's a lot more fun. You got to read the whole story. And I'm a little bit behind the 8 ball time-wise because I'm running 10 minutes over or so. So these usually go for an hour, but I have been known to go past time. Turbo, I do Investors Underground, and I'm doing, doesn't playfulness feel better? I'm so glad, Cynthia, you agree. Getting out of my head is extremely hard for me tonight. I'm sorry to have the aha moment. Good job, Eric. Good job. And even getting out of your head, like Eric, just hold that loosely too, right? Listen to 38 Special and listen to those words until you start to like digest it. Because we're all in our heads, all of us. The world, the environments reward us, to be intellectual about things, to strategize. But it does sometimes just cut us off from the rest of us. And I just want you guys to know that. Trader 54, you're welcome. Thank you for being here. I have not seen you here before, Trader 54. If you've been here before and I missed you, I'm sorry, but I'm glad you're here. And I'm glad it was valuable for you. I hope it was. All right, so I'll wrap it up. Any last questions from me? Quick. But what did I want to say? Okay, right, Trader. So Investors Underground. So Turbo Sam. So I do his midweek study session. When is that? I just want to speak to that. On the 29th. So if for those who are with Investors Underground, come and say hello. Oh, good. Glad you came back then, Trader 54. I love your name because it reminds me of Studio 54, which was a famous New York club. I'm sure you've heard about it. It was only open for a short time, but it was the place to be. I was too young. I was a little girl then. I mean, I'm old, but I'm not that old. Mm-hmm. Good job, Tina. Lots to get curious about. That's it. Just stay curious. So go look up rule number 6, everybody. You'll appreciate that story. But as you can imagine, it's in the neighborhood of holding things loosely, holding things with playfulness. And that there's a study out there. I'm not going to be able to quote who the hell the study was done by, but it talked about how long it takes an adult to process a new task, how long it takes an adult to, through repetition, be able to kind of, learn something new. And what the study said was that the amount of time it took, I can't remember, like, let's just say it was a year or something like that, was unbelievably reduced when play was involved in the adult learning. And now the speculation is that is possibly why children learn quicker than adults do, because they are always playing when they're learning. They are learning with play. They go hand in hand. This is going to, probably freak some people out. Take it, with a grain of salt here. Imagine if you brought playfulness to your trading. I know that sounds nuts. I'm not telling you to be irresponsible. I'm just wanting you guys to step into what playfulness gives all of us, right? I run a business. I'm an entrepreneur. My days are packed. I get up super early, like so much to do every day. I can forget. I forget all the time. I have a great team and they remind me, hey, Kim, remember rule number 6. Or they just say, calm the fuck down, whichever one comes to mind. But they help me remember to not take myself too seriously. They help me remember, oh, right, how about some play? All the paperwork, this, that. There's so many left brain things that we have to do that I can pop easily out of my playfulness. These lives with you guys actually get me back into my playfulness, because there's comments, Connecticut. Okay, Trader 54, that's how you know about it probably, but I'm curious what the 54 stands for. Maybe it's Studio 54, but probably not. But because this is somewhat playful, right? Because we hopefully have some fun here. Exactly, Tom. Exactly. It's a game. And you can see everything as a game. And you can also see that game as potentially rigged on your behalf. And that is something we talked about a few weeks ago, if you guys remember, where I said, what if you start to see life or the markets as happening for you instead of to you, right? Can you just hear the difference? The market's happening for you to grow, for you to face the parts of yourself that perhaps limit you, for have calling the more higher kind of self forth, right? If the market is happening for you, if life is happening for you, whoa, what a different energy, a different dance you will have. That is being willing to be in this place of play. We can, there, I don't know who said it, it's probably somebody famous, but, the concept of we can make a heaven hell, and we can make hell a heaven. I think they give you the analogy of like a guy can be in paradise, on a beach like here, this Mauna Kea's beach is the most gorgeous beach, I think, in the world. There are people, I see them who come from the mainland. They're at that resort, which is a very expensive resort. So they clearly have the money. They clearly have the ability to go on vacation. I can spot them now a mile away, guys. They are at that beach and they cannot even be present to it. They have a book, they put it down, they check their phone. Some people have their laptops on the beach. On the beach, guys. They're on the most gorgeous beach in the world in Hawaii, and they're on their laptop. Better than to not be in Hawaii, but like, what's the point? Like, you're not even here because they can't be present, right? Because they can't actually feel and let it in. So you could be jealous of that person. You could be like, what? I wish I was them. But do you? You could be in a one-room apartment in Queens or a prison. And if the inside of you is in harmony, it's not going to matter where the hell you are, guys. If the people that are on that beach internally don't have peace, they're not going to even be able to be connected to where they are. And the same is true for all of us, no matter where we are. This is why the internal getting it aligned is so important. So important. And I also see the possibilities that open, the opportunities that open when you start to live as if life is happening for you, that the market's happening for you, even with the painful, costly lessons. That lesson could be saving you even more further down the road. So take that into the next week or two. Again, I'll let you guys know with an announcement when I come back to this. It'll either be next Thursday or the Thursday after. We'll see. Keep an eye out for my X space with Matt Marino, Centerpoint CEO. Come with some questions, please, because he is just this incredibly brilliant and heartfelt CEO. He's incredible. And his care and his love, I'm not kidding, love of their clients, his clients, their clients, Centerpoint's clients, is incredible. He really gives a damn. And to me, that's everything. All right. So that's it, I guess. I see your quote there. That's right, Eric. Do you see yourself coming from limitation or abundance? It's huge. All right. You guys are awesome. Great conversations. Cynthia, let me know how it goes. Tom, I'm glad you're here today. Eric, I'm glad you were here. Glad you're here. Trader 54. For everybody, Tina. You guys are awesome. Thank you for putting your comments in the chat box. Go and hold on loosely. And don't forget to play. Okay, guys? All right. I'll see everybody soon. And ride those waves. Wild time right now. Roaring Kitty. I would love to get Roaring Kitty on my podcast. How cool would that be? I guess I could just ask him, right? What's he going to say? No? How fun would that be to have Roaring Kitty on the podcast? Good. Cynthia, let me know how it goes. I'm very proud of you. Keep going with those stories. And Cynthia, here's another thing I want to suggest to you. There's an exercise called the squares. And even if you want to, Cynthia, send me a DM on Twitter, X, and I'll send it to you. It's from a book called The Marriage of Spirit, and it's a polarity exercise. It's very powerful. I use it all the time. All right. Love you guys. Be well. Take care of yourselves. Be safe.